Hey Ruth. Last video this semester. Sorry it's so late. Yeah, I'm sorry. But so today we're doing the second reflection on Janelle. So Janelle was singing and distracting the class. So they would take her into the closet and basically just put her in there as like isolation. So this obviously is very incorrect. Also, sorry, my dog is like snoring in the background. But so this is also a very incorrect way to deal with students with autism, especially the way they did it. They didn't explain to her even why she was going in there, so she was just basically being dragged and then put into a closet with no explanation. So if they explained it to her, it still obviously wouldn't be right, but at least she would understand why it is that she's going in there. So like instead of punishing her and just throwing her in the closet, it should have been more of a place for her to de-escalate and like re-regulate herself. So the closet should have been more of like a comfort room and like a sensory room. So maybe there'd be like a beanbag in there and some fidgets, or just a place that she could sing and like get some stuff out and they could have a minute to sing and then we have to go back to class. But she shouldn't have just been punished like that. As it goes on, it explains that she has a fear of going to school and a fear of closets and small spaces now. So we shouldn't be building a place where she's scared to come into. We shouldn't be building a place where she's scared to come into school. We want school to be a positive experience. We want her to want to learn. We don't want her to be scared to go into school and to learn. So by punishing her like that, it's not going to be a good place for her to learn. As well, the teachers always talked to her and then they were mad at her, so then they weren't talking to her. She didn't understand why this, especially with autism. Students don't have these social cues that they need to be able to understand, like, I did something wrong. So she's just scared. And she's like, why is everyone being different? But she doesn't understand why. So they need to be explaining that to her. Also, they could have kept the door open of the room. They didn't need to close it. And it could have also, depending on how much time and how often she's in there, it could be something where she chooses when she wants to leave, not, we have 3 minutes in here and then you're coming back. Timeouts typically are not the answer to things. And then because she was shut down and she went to that blue pathway, she wasn't able to express her emotions. Students with autism especially have trouble with this. So by shutting them down and not letting them even try, you're just regressing the situation and they're not learning something that's already a struggle for these students to learn. Yeah, so basically overall the teachers need to question why she's singing and realize that it's a wired response and not that she's deciding to sing to disrupt the class. That's all. Okay, and I'm going to Lauren. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He obviously had a very tough childhood. He was changing houses, changing schools. He was getting kicked out of places because they didn't want him there because he was too much for them to handle. And and they were thinking it was his fault, that he was doing all this stuff and he was a bad kid. But what really was the issue was he's in a red path. He knows his trauma response is to go into a red pathway, which is understandable. If you grew up with violence, you're going to think that that's the normal. Also, if you're changing houses all the time and people are just kicking you out of their house and you're jumping homes and you're getting change all the time, you're more likely to be in a red pathway as you're responding to these hard behaviors. So people didn't know how to deal with this because they weren't trained on it, which all schools should be trained on trauma response. But yeah, they kept doing stuff that didn't work. They kept doing positive reinforcement and then punishment if he didn't listen. Obviously, after like the third year of this not working, like they should have thought of something new, but they didn't. But what in Beyond Behaviors, what they talked about was how he did have a support person, and that's what he needs. He needs people that he's comfortable with and safe with, because you're not going to be in a red pathway if you're comfortable. Well, you could be, but it's less likely for you to be in a red pathway if you're comfortable with your teacher. So these teachers should be building relationships with him, having these conversations, and also prepping for change. So that could be like telling him what's going to happen during the day before the day starts. If the schedule's changing, letting him know. Just letting him know so he can mentally prepare for these things, because he's so scared of change because that's all he's done his whole entire life. It would make him feel so much safer if he had people that supported him and had his back, instead of feeling like everyone's always against him, because that's when he's going to automatically get defensive. But yeah. All right. That's all. Have a good rest of your break, Ruth. I'll see you next semester.